Alright guys, this has probably been my most requested mindset video. How to avoid tilting or getting frustrated. Now I'm just going to get right into it. The two main causes for tilting: lack of control and lack of confidence. With lack of confidence, this is why aim trainers are so good, because sure, they warm up your aim, but more importantly, they give you the confidence and that reassurance that you will get the job done the more and more you play. When it comes to lack of control specifically, it's easier just to complain and say no one else fixed the issue instead of you taking responsibility, because with control comes responsibility, and that scares a lot of people because no one wants to be wrong. Think of it this way. When a new brain spawns into the world, it's pretty much under the impression that it's Jesus. No flaws, nothing wrong, just perfect in every way. You need to understand that that's just a fantasy. It's impossible to grow as a player and as a person overall if all you're going to do is be complacent and just not be willing to learn. And with that being said, you need to get this drilled into your head. Elo is worthless. If all you're doing is playing for Elo, you're essentially just playing for bragging points. When you lose a ranked game, you're not really losing. You're either winning or you're learning. If you play scared just trying to protect your elo like it's all you got, you will get tilted, you won't learn anything, and that right there is considered a true loss, not learning anything that would better your chances for future games. So some of you watching this most likely have a problem with pointing out misplays to your teammates, making side comments on how many kills you have and they just need to step up their game, or even flaming an operator pick mid-round. Now, you may not see this as a problem, as you may be thinking, oh, well, I'm just trying to make them aware of their mistakes so it won't happen again. Waiting for the round to be over and coming to your team with a solution for the next round is very different from pointing out the problems in the middle of the round and not coming up with the solution or ways to win. If you're consistently coming up with solutions, great, keep doing that. If you're just now noticing that you're a mid-round whiner, then consider this a wake-up call, because I'm almost certain that most of the solo queuing mid-round whiners watching this also suffer from no one on their team using their mic. I mean, just think about it. Everyone has a mic in 2021. So what are the reasons people don't want to talk in general in game? You got the normal player who just hates confrontation, you got the kids with the high voices and also female gamers, those two get enough shit on a daily basis already, over their voice that they just don't have control over. You got the kids where their parents just won't allow them to talk online, and you got the people that are playing in a public place. Lucky for you, you have some influence on the majority of players that don't want to use their mic. The last two, where people are in a public space or their parents just don't allow them to talk, you don't really have control over getting them to use their mic. Now this is where you need to be really self-aware. Because if all you do is point out the errors on your team, well, guess what? No one's going to want to talk to you, because now you're coming off as rude and irrational. The normal player will think, oh, well, this guy's just not thick as straight since he's complaining mid-round while we're still trying to play. I'm just not going to get in a tango with him. And on top of that, you can just kiss your chances goodbye of getting the female gamers or the younger males to open up to you, since you are the person that they're trying to avoid. I mean, just ask yourself, who are the people that like to poke fun at things that other people can't control, such as their voice? Irrational pussies behind a screen. So I'm sure you can piece it together by now. If you come across as a loose cannon, no one will want to interact with you. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh, but I'm not like those guys. I don't make fun of things people can't control. Listen, the sad reality of the situation, with complainers and haters always being the loudest in the room, they've kind of developed this reputation for all men in general, where now young guys with high voices and female gamers generally assume that if you're a guy, you're going to be an idiot online, so you kind of have to be proactive in getting them to open up with you. On my stream at twitch.tv/Austinian, I sometimes do VOD reviews where a viewer sends me a pre-recorded game of themselves, you know, just an average game, that I would critique. I'd say around 70% of the rounds I watch, teams just don't reinforce critical walls or hatches, gadgets are horribly placed, players position themselves just asking to die, and when it's a 1v1 and the guy I'm watching loses the fight because his headshot just didn't register, him and his team would chalk it up to, oh, that wasn't a headshot? Damn, we would have won the round if the game just worked. Bro, like, is that all you took from the round? Here's a rule of thumb. You never want to pin a round on a single gunfight. Sure, it sucks that the headshot missed, but there were so many missed opportunities to not rely on a 1v1 deciding the round. I mean, I see this all the time with players that consistently stay below gold. They just hope that things go their way. You know, hopefully no one's holding this angle that I'm sprinting towards. Hopefully no one's on the skylight 40 seconds in the round. Instead of taking control and learning from your previous mistakes, you continue to go for these ego plays that might work 10% of the time, and the other 90% of the time when you just get slammed, you chalk it up to, oh, of course he's watching that. Oh wow, what a pussy. What is this guy doing? You know, all it takes to dumpster a diamond swinging through a doorway are 2 golds watching the same thing. You're going to play smarter people the more you win. If you want to keep winning, you need to learn from your mistakes and adapt. If all you're doing is going for YouTube or Twitter clips, telling everyone you'd be champ if it wasn't for your bad teammates, then you deserve to stay in gold until you change your playstyle. Now, I assume a good chunk of you that are watching this are under 25 or so. You complain a lot, but you may not know that. But basically, you always find some excuse to fall back on during a ranked game, whether that be a dumb play by the enemy team, or something to do with your teammates like them getting your kill in a weird way, and then you get tilted. What you don't realize is that when you're tilted, and that leaks into the game chat, combined with the fact that you've kind of just stopped trying, running around like it's COD just on autopilot, that's definitely why you're losing most of your games. The reason why is because people play at their peak performance when they're happy, not upset. Think about it. Every time you're in a call with your team and people are cracking jokes every round, just having a good time, you're more likely just to run the other team over. Compared to when everyone's acting all depressed and you have that one guy in your team that just brings down the vibes by pointing out every little mistake, you tend to lose a lot more rounds that you feel like you should have won. This is just because of intuition. Your intuition will never work when you're depressed and will sometimes even give you a polar opposite read on your opponent. When you're chirped up, given that no one's gaslighting your decisions, you can predict some amazing stuff. This is why it's no coincidence you've never made a legitimate 300 IQ play or read that you'd still be proud of while on tilt, since those plays only ever happen when you're in a good mood, because instead of allocating brain cells towards complaining about your team or yourself or the other team, you're more focused on reading the situation and acting off of your instinct. Sure, you could have been tilted one time and ran in with Ash and got a 4K. That wasn't a smart play, and furthermore, you didn't gain anything or learn anything from that round. You just got it for free. When you're tilted, you're too focused on complaining to yourself or to others about how nothing's going your way. You know, woe is me, just wallowing in self-pity. And when it comes to the mental side of it, there are usually 2 types of people. You got the people on the left side of the spectrum that always complain about their day-to-day stuff, and when things finally go their way, they almost just act neutral about it, like everything in their life has to be perfect and that's just the way it should be. Whereas on the right side of the spectrum, you got the people who are always neutral about day-to-day life, you know, just average stuff happening, and when things go their way, they feel ecstatic and grateful majority of the time. But Austin, I never get lucky, and I feel like those people who are always happy are either fake or they're just luckier than my friends and I. First of all, they're not Jesus. They have the same amount of luck as you or anybody else. Secondly, it's because they actively look at the bright side of every situation. You know, they actively work towards and actively put effort into looking at the bright side of every situation so that they never allow themselves to get upset, so that they can stay neutral in day-to-day life, specifically so that their intuition works at full pace, which in turn keeps them more alert for approaching opportunities that they can take advantage of. A real-world example this can be applied to is driving. If you fall on the left side of the spectrum, you're way more likely to get into an accident. Since you're too busy complaining and road raging, your intuition will never work at full pace, which means you won't sense driving patterns or even just pay attention to your sides or mirrors, compared to someone on the right side of the spectrum, almost just expecting people to make mistakes on the road, so they're never surprised or upset when they get cut off or someone just doesn't use their turn signal. Now, it's important to know that you can't fake being optimistic. Sure, it'll hold up sometimes and you'll get some good responses from your team, but you are still going to be the person playing bad. And when you eventually creep back into your old habits, you'll now come off as passive aggressive, and trust me, it's very obvious and no one likes passive aggression. Now you're probably thinking, oh, well, everyone's different. I can probably fake it for as long as I want. That doesn't apply here, because why do people complain in the first place? Because it comforts this idea that they have that they never make mistakes. And when you fake optimism, you're just putting on a show for others around, and naturally as a person, you are going to take shortcuts where you can. So, taking shortcuts mixed with faking optimism will always equal passive aggression. So, Austin, how do I instinctively look at the bright side of everything? There are so many answers to this question, but the most consistent and the easiest answer to give you is to just be grateful for the situation that you're in, or any future situations that you get tossed into. No matter the situation, you could always have worse circumstances. Take this analogy that I came up from the show Naked and Afraid. You know, people get tossed into a jungle or into a desert completely naked, and they have to just make do with what they got. Most people make their struggles seem like they're just naked with completely nothing to work with on a flat and empty biome. You know, they just don't know what to do. But really, most people's problems reflect being clothed in a forest with a backpack of equipment, which essentially means they're too upset, they're too tilted, or too far down this rabbit hole of self-pity. The point I'm making is that most people's problems have obvious solutions to them, but most people are too tilted to see the solution staring them right in the face.